Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. And as usual, I would ask all those joining us telephonically and by Teams to mute your mic when you're not speaking. When you do speak, to state your name for clarity of the record. All right, and with that, tonight we have a public hearing for the proposed changes that were discussed last month for the sewer connection fee. All right, I'm going to read the quick over here. Thank you. The meeting was publicly noticed of the day on Friday, April 4th. Copies of the proposed changes have been posted on the MPU website, and copies were made available to the public at both the city clerk's office and MPU customer service center. Are there any members of the public here tonight that would like to comment? Are there any members here? Any members of the public here that would like to comment on the connection fees? Oh, there's a show, okay. All right, last but not, I'll ask one more time. Are there any members of the public here this evening that would like to speak about the sewer connection fees? All right, well, hearing none. Yeah, okay. Hearing none, then there's no time limit for this. So I will declare this public meeting closed. All right, and that's it. So thanks everyone for keeping it brief. All right, now we have our traditional 15-minute public comment period. Are there any members of the public here this evening who would like to speak? And there's no one on, I believe, right?
No.
No one here, no one on.
No.
All right. All right, moving on to agenda item 4, which is approval of the minutes of the March 25th, 2025 meeting, which was in your board package. If everyone got a chance to look at those, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Robert.
And I think the show is on.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion to approve the minutes, and we need a second.
All right, I'll second.
Okay.
All right, I have a first and a second. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. Now, let's see, agenda item 5. We have 4 information and updates provided in the board packet, which we have the financials, the leadership team template, the customer service dashboard, and the sewer connection fee amendments. We'll start off with the financials. Are there any questions or comments on the financials? I did not have any. All right, move on to the leadership team template. Were there any questions or comments on the leadership team template? I don't think I had any.
Can we go back to the financials for
Yes,
just
we
one
can.
quick second?
Yes, okay.
This is maybe not directly the financials, but our contribution to the city this year is down
About $1 million.
about $1 million. And the city's having a tough time with the budget and so forth and so on. I guess I'm curious to know, you, Chris, or anyone else, in discussing that with the council or being at the public hearing or any of that sort of stuff, what was the public reaction to that particular thing? Or was there no reaction?
Right, so when the city manager presented the budget.
Yep.
He did talk about the positives and negatives to that. Positive is that the city is paying less for utilities. So, but it is $1 million less. There was no place for comment at that meeting. And I haven't heard any comments on that since. It's the biggest issues are the vehicle taxes going down, and that is the other one, rest utilities. Have not heard anybody ask for any concerns about that. When we presented our budget, we presented that number. Again, it was not a surprise to anyone. I think we told everyone last year it was going down because of wholesale energy costs. And next year, we're anticipating it to go up another couple $100,000. So, and that was also communicated to them as well.
I've run into a couple of people who basically took the position that, well, we're spending a lot of money, so our 10% contribution is going down. And they don't seem to understand that it's based on gross, not based on net. So,
And while our rates always go up, wholesale, well, usually go up, I don't say always go up. The wholesale commodities go up and down.
Yeah.
So, and it was a major global energy increase, and things have relatively stabilized.
okay, thank you.
All right, I had one question on the leadership template. I think this is the first, maybe not. This, on North C Street, 66 apartments. I didn't know where that was. I looked up North C Street. It came up by the Panema Mills.
It's north of the Getty Apartments now, so it's up on us. It's just
On
accessing
the other side.
accessing it from the high side.
I got you.
It's where they clear it up on the side of the hill. If you drive by, you can see that. But they're coming in from deep stuff.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right. C Street. And I saw, where is Eric? Eric, I saw that all the wheels are spinning now and making electricity, all of them, holy cow.
Yes.
I said, I'm not gonna even mention Eric's name, but then I did, look what happened.
Yeah, it's an exceptional company.
We did a little dance. It's, we are, all wheels are spinning.
Nice, well, thank you for that. All right. So, okay, leadership team template, I think that's, and we've got the customer service dashboard, that's the purple sheet. Any questions or comments on that? All right, lastly, we had the Stewart connection fee amendment, which was in your board package.
We can discuss this now, we can discuss it during actions, it's your
You'll
choice.
probably combine it with actions, what do you think? All right.
Yeah.
All right, that'll work, all right. Okay, which brings us to the CMEC report, which is myself. I've got a short one. The CMEC board met on March 27th. The member power cost with member return for February was $132 per megawatt hour, which was still 28% below the expected deviation of benchmark. For the energy market, member residual cost, energy cost for February is $85.29. Which is a little bit above the budget of $80.54, however, well below the LMP of $130.15. In February, 10% of the February energy cost came from the spot market at $153. And that was because of the cold snap we had, I'm sure. And during the month of February, the day ahead markets varied from $48 to $175. During the month of February, natural gas averaged $3.88 per decatherm. And lastly, the forward energy market for March was presented in the package, our package, as $56 and change per megawatt hour and $49 for April. So the customary spring, summer, and fall lower prices are on track. So get a little break. And that's all I had.
The next meeting is Thursday.
Yeah, indeed.
Coming back.
Yes, and we can finally finish up the audit committee. All right, so that brings us to Shipping Street Pump Station Grant update. Chris, who would you like to, this will be Larry Sullivan.
Yes, so we'll do a high level of what's going on with that project, and then the board will have opportunities in the next several meetings to discuss more. So, Larry?
So about 15 months ago, we started work on design of the Shipping Street Pump Station. We received a $485,000 grant through FEMA, administered through DEEP's Climate Resilient Fund to more than a preliminary design, but not a final design of the Shipping Street Pump Station, which is currently located in a floodplain and a floodway. So they want you to make these pump stations resilient to flooding. So we're working on a design to pull the station on a different part of that area and still serve the public, but up in the air, a little higher flood protection. Long story short, as part of this grant, we have to have 2 public information sessions with roughly the final design with cost implications and a roadmap on where you should look for additional funding to actually get the project built. So we don't have these meetings scheduled yet. It will be probably in the end of May and early June. We're supposed to have this work complete by mid-July. We have asked for a 3-month extension just in case our engineer doesn't quite get it done. But we did not want the board finding out through word that we're having a public information session about this project. We're required to invite city officials, deep residents, any businesses impacted. I mean, honestly, this is really more for something if they're getting rid of 10 houses out of the flood zone and putting in a park, so people have a lot more to put up. We don't expect a ton of pump stations. We are required as part of it to have these. We'll work with Matt at Senior Center. We'll find some places in North Staff to use.
And, yeah, surprise, surprise, we're not gonna be done there. We're gonna have similar, for the Bean Hill substation relocation. The contracts got signed at different times, so those will be more like in the fall timeframe, Eric?
Close to the fall, we'll probably be presenting sometime in the summer.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of useful in there.
Hey, help me out. Floodplain and floodway.
Floodway.
What is the
Uh,
floodplain?
Water.
Yeah, everything in there is just dog tier, like cringe robberies
Water. Floodplain is water just goes up.
on my shit list.
So floodplain is more impactful than floodplain. That can actually wipe things away. There it is.
Got it. I know, good thing.
Evidence of actual water being on that property?
I personally never seen it. It has gotten closer, but the FEMA maps are the FEMA maps, so.
And there can't be people.
Yeah, you have to do a letter of map amendment. You would need extensive survey and all kinds of engineering analysis to prove that the Kentucky River would not fill up and overflow the embankments. It's not a cheap process.
So let me ask you a question. I'm sorry I'm late. Flood proofing versus moving it altogether. Are we gonna spend a lot of money flood proofing and ultimately?
No, so this is, you design it, if we could have flood proofed it easily, we would have, we're moving it. So we're gonna go
The station is completely underground.
Okay.
And you basically get a small structure of concrete with manholes that go underground. Not a bad idea.
And the other bonus on moving this one is it's in the railroad right away as well. So if we have to do anything, you gotta hire a flagger and get railroad permission. We just went through that with the force main break last week.
We do size force main, we always look at the surrounding neighborhoods, you know, future development, size the station accordingly, that we support anything that.
And then, Bill, you weren't here when we said this, the contract for the electric grant, which was the same, funding source, got pushed out for the signing, so Eric's gonna be doing this in the summer for the Bean Hill. And that one there, the cost of rising it and replacing all the equipment is gonna be prohibitive, so we're gonna move that one as well. That might be a little premature to say that officially, but that's where we're going.
That's the direction we're headed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Any questions for Larry on the pump station grant? All right, well, we have 3 presentations tonight. The first one, I believe, will be Laura.
It happens all the time.
PPA and the PPA review.
It's gotta be tougher when you have Lauren at CMAC coordinating your meetings, right?
Yeah. You have a Lauren in the room. Think of Lauren. I mean,
Who's pulling up the presentation? Oh,
On a couple of things. So we went over the, leadership team.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Before you start,
We'll see you in
And I apologize, I'm late.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to, since I have a five quick, to fill out some questions.
So, as far as the sewer connector, so let me understand this, so that I know what I'm talking about. So, Tractor Supply is maybe going to build out in Boston, right?
Yep.
And so I see that sign up, for sale sign said sewer and water, I knew there was water, but not sewer. Are we planning to extend sewer, are they planning to extend sewer, do you know?
so that they would have to stay.
So they would have to pay for the extension?
We do not pay and we do not finance that for them.
Okay, so they'll have to do that.
Correct.
Now, if somebody wants to connect, whether it's residential or another commercial land use, do they pay Tractor Supply if they pay for the extension? Or how does that work?
So when we do it in Norwich, and it's dictated by state statute, everywhere you go by needs to be assessed for the sewer. And that's,
Regardless if they connect or not, so they,
and then there's a connection fee above and beyond that.
which is what we're going.
We're voting on only the connection fee in the city of Norwich. Now, if they add any load in Bosnia, we charge them for that connection. It's covered in the intermunicipal agreement, and they pay for it. They can charge whatever they would like, or WPCA dictates for that connection fee. It could be, they could make taxpayers pay for it, it's up to them. They could make it so they're paying exactly the same, or they could put an extra amount on there to cover some of their costs and overhead.
But at this stage of the game, we're not paying for any of the water or sewer extensions out to Boston.
None. And we haven't done that for any of them.
So we have the six.
I take that back. The only place we did pay for some was out the emergency interconnect spring.
Okay,
And the reason being on that was because we got a significant grant increase for the rest of our projects. So by building that project in and paying for that project, we got a lot more money back.
so that was for water, right?
That was cool.
And then I just have a couple of quick questions on, the tablet. Should take. So I did get a call this week from a business owner in Boston that's looking to connect to public water. Have you heard from Boston at all, this first selectman on that?
No, where, like I said, where it stands, because of if we put water in front of the property, we can't force someone to tie it. So they have to volunteer to tie it. So DPH requires all property owners to sign a commitment to that. Hey, we put the water out there, they're gonna connect. DPH won't pay for water extension for their customers. So, the first selectman of Boston is supposed to be knocking on the doors of all property owners, getting consents.
Can we check in with him to see how?
We do regular check.
Okay, thank you. Is there any update on the Blue Wave battery file?
So in fact, didn't get to it today, Jeff, because we're talking.
I called him.
Okay.
They'll call back.
Because we did a check on that today anyway, so.
And then, Chris Riley, something he's regarding on some stuff that's going on in Hartford. Yeah, that, we're monitoring several bills before the Energy Technology and Finance Committees that could impact NPU. Elaborate on that?
So we had a call today with our lobbies, the big bill that was introduced by Senator Bonfera a week or so ago. That would take, that proposes to bond for $2 billion a year over 3 years to have the state essentially pay for the public benefits charge for all the customers of UI and Eversource. DMEC has suggested, and it was agreed upon to see if that's going to in fact happen. is there a way for the municipal utilities to be funded for some of their costs associated with similar programs, so that our customers who don't incur the public benefits charge are not paying back that and getting nothing in return. So that's one of the more significant things, very fluid, very contentious between John Fair, who's the chairman of the finance committee, who used to be the chairman of the energy committee, and Norm Eagleman, who's currently the chairman of the energy committee, butting heads of it. So we had a long talk with our lobbyists today. It's expected that the bill will be passed by the finance committee probably in the next 2 or 3 days. And then it would go to the energy committee. So it's going to be a very fluid situation over the next couple of weeks. Both the governor and the speaker have chimed in saying that they're not sure that using the state's credit card, for lack of a better term, to pay the public benefits charge is something that makes sense. But legislature hasn't come up with anything that's going to address bills, very extravagant utility bills across the state 5 months into the legislative session. You're going to have to get something accomplished. There's growing momentum behind this bill. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Our lobbyists seem to think about 2 weeks, we'll get a better sense of it. And if it's going to go forward with the green bond fund proposal, there could be an avenue for us to then seek funding for a portion of our expenses to benefit our customers.
So on average, do our expenses,
So all the energy efficiency programs that we do, the hardship programs that we have, those are things. So it would provide funding potentially for the municipals, similar to what the investor-owned utilities are.
how much on average that is for a customer?
I know that we did in energy assistance, the low-income discount rate was $350,000-$400,000 for about 2,000 customers, so not a ton. But when you add in, Operation Fuel, you add in the efficiency program, those are things, those get into the millions of dollars. So if we can address those or have them at least funded for a couple of years, it would make a substantial difference. And as Jeff said today, the critical part of it is that if we were not to get funded, the rates for the overall bill on an investor-owned utility customer would then come down 25 or 30%, and our competitive advantage would then be dramatically different than it is today, at least in the short term.
So the residents would pay for that through taxes, right? Because this isn't really cost savings. This is shifting the load from utility rates to taxes. Yeah, right. So you're still paying.
It's still paying, it's not for what?
Yeah.
So there were a couple of proposals early in the session about starting a municipal electric bonding fund or something like that, and all those seem to have fallen to the wayside. So it's still another 6 or 7 weeks to go. We're in regular contact with them, and we'll just have to see what happens.
So Chris or Stu, and you guys might know the answer to this. CMAQ tends to talk about having a 40% rate advantage over the investor utilities. But I don't know how that base is calculated. I mean, is that their cost of electricity without the extra charge, or does it include the extra charge? And if the extra charge is taken away from the investor-owned utilities and put on the back of taxpayers, what do we think the advantage is going to be if there's going to be one?
Well, at CMAQ, what they do is when they do the comparison with that 40%,
Yes.
is they take the Eversource rate and they peel out everything that is just for wholesale energy and transmission. And that's what they're comparing, not the distribution charges that we have. And when we look at our bad debt, that's in our side, that's CMAQ gets paid every month, so there's no bad debt. So it's really not an apples to apples when you're talking about public benefits charge. Our public benefits charge has some on the distribution side and some on the energy side, because you're buying Millstone power through public benefits. So it's hard to, it takes a lot of work to decouple and get the right pieces and the right parts. But CMAQ is concerned that if there was no if there's no relief for our customers, that competitive advantage goes down. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, good job. Yeah. I mean, there is the hedging piece and how the hedging works. And there's been discussions in that bill about addressing that too. Who knows what it's going to look like by the time they get to the end? And we are watching closely between all the munis and the munis lobbyists and CMAQ's lobbyists are all looking very closely at this.
what was the purpose of that, was it, a benefits charge? What was the intent of it? Or what was it paying for?
I think what they try to do is they bear in everything from infrastructure upgrade costs, because it was a big push to create more resiliency. Bad debt is a huge one, left over from COVID. They fund their energy programs 4 times what we fund them at. However, our cost effectiveness is over 2 times, so the community is getting the same benefit at a much lower cost. So if you had a Norwich Public Utilities public benefits charge, I can honestly say it would be a small portion of what it is as a percentage of the customer's bill, the investor on the side, but no one truly knows everything that's happened to that.
These were all charges that were incurred because of bringing electricity to people's houses. It wasn't like they were paying, for some other program, like, farmland or something. These are all charges related to electricity. They were being paid for by Eversource customers. And for some reason, they put it in a special category and everybody blew a gasket.
And there's a,
So why would
there's a premium for the contract that they agreed to with Millstone, which was a bipartisan thing, to keep Millstone up and running,
Right,
to pay a premium for their energy, which is green.
right.
And that, there's a cost, the premium for that electricity is part of the public benefit structure.
And right now, that's actually a pretty good deal right now, so that's not the worst part of it. But it's what it is, so that's where you get some distribution type stuff and some wholesale stuff.
So the critics of the bill that's being considered are saying it's a fluid market, so the public benefits charge is going to come down in time. Can we just weather the storm, take our, licks for another 6, 12, 18 months? Or do you want to bond $800 million 3 years in a row,
Yeah.
spread it out over 30 years, take the credit for the short term, and then add $2.4 billion to the state indebtedness?
I don't know, it just seems crazy. These are charges that were incurred to provide a product, and now we're gonna stretch it out. And if it goes from the ratepayer to the taxpayer, it's roughly the same people. How many taxpayers don't have electricity coming into their house? So it's going to be paid by the same people. So I don't see why they're saying, well, this will save a lot. It'll take their electric bill down a little bit, and the tax bill goes up. So
Caution. It's just a caution.
But an apartment dweller may not be as impacted as much as a landlord, right?
And it shows some activity that they're addressing the most pressing issue, and typically, to be deleted later on, but most public officials are looking to the even numbered years ahead and not 20 or 30 years down.
right.
And the proponent of this bill is trying to get appointed to the Pure Commission, and this is something that's gained a great deal of traction. And he's become the hero of the day if this were to pass in the next 6 or 8 weeks.
Okay, well,
Obviously, one of the things that's happening too is that bond rates on municipal bonds, like tax exempt bonds, skyrocketed. So, they're gonna have to pay interest on whatever they bond. And that's gonna push up things 5% probably.
And which then in turn decreases the savings by 5%.
Yeah.
It's no free lunch.
you all set, Bill? All right, that brings us to Laura.
Alright, so we are gonna go over the PGA. So the natural gas market is always volatile, we've discussed this, and the PGA is used to manage and effectively balance the stability and energy cost recovery. Our objectives is build predictability, recovery of our energy costs, compliance with our internal policies, and meeting our key financial metrics. That being said, based on your analysis, we're adjusting the PGA effective June 1st. So in looking at the cost of purchased gas, there are 3 main drivers. If we look at fiscal 26 costs, we're about $4 million higher than fiscal 25. And then looking out to fiscal 27, it's another $1 million from 26 to 27. So over the next 2 years, a significant increase in gas costs. The 3 main factors here are the AMA credit, changes in our reservation and transportation charges, and commodity costs. The reservation and transportation charges are based on rate settlement cases, and those are small impacts overall to the annual cost. And there is an impact on commodity costs based on the colder than normal temperatures we received nationwide, and reduction in our storage balances. Those are smaller impacts. The biggest impact of these three items is our asset management credit. It is decreasing by an estimated $4.5 million on an annual basis starting in fiscal 26. When we had those historically high energy markets, NP was able to capitalize on that, lock in an AMA credit for 2 years. That window was November of 23 to October of 25. $7.5 million per year for those 2 years. Significant savings to our customers because of that. Market conditions are more normal now. We're looking at the AMA update in October of this year, and it's forecasted to be significantly lower than what we had experienced because of those unusual market conditions back in 2020. Next slide. This is the chart we're all familiar with. So again, the blue bars are the PGA rate customers save. The black bar is our balance in the PGA fund, and the green line is our target. The solid lines are all actuals. The dotted to the right-hand side are all forecasts. We've been able to provide our customers with a 30-cent credit for the last 19 months. And as of June, it will be 19 months. This is a significant savings over this 19-month window. As of June 1st, we're looking at a change of just under a half a cent charge. So about a 30-cent change for customer bills per CCF. And again, trying to balance that bill stability for our customers. We have been able to maintain that. 19 months is a very long time to keep a significantly high credit. Recovery of our energy cost, again, keeping the balance of our fund at or above our target, and then maintaining that target balance. Next slide, please. So our change effective June 1st, our current PGA is about negative 33 cents, the credit. As of June 1st, it's going to be just shy of a half cent per CCF. We'll be going through the next month, providing information to our customers on this change, letters, emails, phone calls to our commercial customers, making sure that they're all aware of the change. And then information will be posted on our website. Based on our analysis, our average residential customer will see about a $15 a month increase, about 50 cents a day. Our average residential customers looking at still, even with this change for June 1st, about a 7% lower cost than the IOU. Questions?
We frequently compare our electricity costs to the investor-owned utilities. But unlike electricity, where there's 7, I think it is, municipals, there's only one gas municipal, that's us.
We are the only one in Connecticut.
How does our gas price compare to the investor-owned utilities?
So overall, average residential cost with this change, we're looking at 7% lower than the IOUs. And that's with this change. We have been able to be significantly lower for the past 19 months because of that credit, because of the AMA that we were able to execute in 2022. So our customers have had a very long window of a significant price decrease that we've been able to maintain.
And we eliminated the tax liability.
I believe it was 2 years ago now that we were able to eliminate the gross revenues tax.
975 dollars you can get it cut out of the state law, and we keep a very close eye on that as well.
Yep.
So again, a significant benefit to our customers.
Okay. And the rate stabilization fund for gas, if I looked at our books and our rate categories, is there a rate category that says gas rate stabilization fund, or is it?
So when you get your financials every month and you see the financials where you see the charts, there's 2 colors in gas. One is operational cash, and one is the PGA fund. So that's where you would see the mix, the total of our cash and how it breaks down between energy and operations dollars.
So is that one fund where you can take money for either purpose, or are they separate funds?
The dollar that comes in has a job. The dollars that come in for PGA specifically go to PGA. Dollars that come in for operations are for operations. So we keep track of that through our accounting system as to what dollars are going for energy costs to recover that energy cost and what dollars are working towards operations, capital investment, and other expenses.
So I hate to be dumb, but you said dollars that come in for PGA.
Mhm.
How do dollars come in for PGA?
On your bill,
Yeah.
you will see the PGA charge. Right now,
Ah,
you see a
okay.
PGA credit. So
Okay.
that 30-cent credit that customers have been experiencing for that 19-month window, they've seen that. It's going to be a charge.
Where on electric at CMEC, you have the rate stabilization fund up there as well as our cash reserves here.
So our P.
This only has cash reserves here,
Correct.
broken up into two pieces.
Okay.
So going out, or you're looking at a 30-cent back, the PGA are roughly 30 cents or so for the
So-
out months.
So as we go forward, and this is 5 years. So as we look further out, those forecasts become a little less predictable.
Oh, I
And we're looking at a very long window of time.
I see.
What we're trying to do is make sure that we're managing the stability and predictability for our customers. As you can see, if we look at the first few months on the left-hand side, that PGA was close to 60 cents.
Yeah, I saw that, yes.
We dropped it significantly to -30 for a long window, and now we're bringing that back up as our costs change. Specifically, the biggest driver here is that AMA change.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. Has anybody done the calculation? I did one years ago, back when I used to be a gas customer, for the heating cost per BTU for gas versus heating oil?
Gas versus heating, I have not done that lately, but that is something that we could put together for.
We do it over the energy efficiency studies. So we can calculate that.
Yeah.
We actually have a little between you.
We have a tool.
You have a tool for that.
Yeah, years ago, back when I did it years ago, gas was cheaper than oil. But there was a certain price point where oil was cheaper, obviously, but, you know, but the
Again, volatility of the market.
Yeah.
At any one point in time, you're going to see that, but we try to look at that over time, right?
Yeah, I used to buy heating oil for 79 cents, so.
So in Friday's email, we'll have that number for you for an average customer.
Thank you. All right. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That brings us to the our favorite, the wastewater plant upgrade. Here we go. This will be Matt Ross. Here we go.
Hope you weren't joking. I hope you do appreciate it.
Making holes, coming on, pouring concrete. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget flying drones.
Gotta get my popcorn.
Poor intro. We did not get a drone flight this month, so you're stuck with some on the ground shots, but we can spin through these. So admin and lab, again, probably 2 months out from the admin building on the left being demolished. We're down to foundation. We are running into some additional abatement for PCBs that's still ongoing. And then, to the right will be really the new laboratory for sewer, but it will also serve our water utility. And, that corridor in the middle will kind of be the new entry into the space for everyone down at the plant. The contractor's into the first primary settling tank. So the tank is completely gutted at this point. They've started coring penetrations for new process piping in different areas. And then, these two penetrations in the top actually will convey scum from the surface to a new scum pump station that's essentially kind of tucked away and largely complete, but waiting for some service. Next slide. After the primary tank, wastewater flows to aeration. The contractor is in the aeration tank 2 with the first tank that they're rehabbing, upgrading. So proceeding with concrete repairs, you can see steel lying in the base of the tank. They're getting ready to form new walls, which will create the biological zones we need to remove nitrogen from the facility. Next slide. Coming out of aeration is a new distribution box. We've talked about this the past couple of meetings, but we need to move the flow from aeration to some new secondary clarifiers. This is a pretty substantial excavation if you're out there. It's kind of tricky walking around right now. This is like 36-inch piping that you're looking at. Next slide. That flow will move to our first two new clarifiers, 3 and 4, which are coming along. And in the center of the two clarifiers is a new pump station, really for sludge flows, returning and wasting from the clarifiers. Next slide. There's some pretty substantial, yard piping work, again, between that box we looked at and these two tanks. A lot of this piping actually rests on concrete tile caps that they're actually starting to pour one day. Next slide, and then on the rear side, we'll be taking all the effluent out of those clarifiers and sending it down to our future UV disinfection facility before it's discharged to the Thames and the Atlantic rivers. Next slide. This is just a look inside. Clarifier 3 in the foreground, 4 in the background. Clarifier 3, they're starting to form the effluent launder that will convey the flow out of the tank, and then clarifier 4, there's just a snippet they've actually started installing scum baffles and effluent weir. So you're actually starting to see equipment go into that tank, and I think next month you'll actually see much more equipment in that tank. Next slide. This photo doesn't show a lot, but the new distribution box, again, pulling sludge flows from that pump station with the two clarifiers back to aeration to keep the biology doing its job. That box is water tested. It's really just missing 2 slide gates at the moment before it's and some grading before it's complete. At the corner here, you can see we'll be bringing new RAS from clarifiers 3 and 4 to this box to distribute back to aeration. All the residuals handling, again, this is a very big transition for the facility, moving away from digestion and dewatering to thickening and hauling liquid sludge. So this will be the first facility coming online, probably very end of June, very early July. Kind of the rear of that facility is 3 tank compartments facing the river for sludge storage, and then the foreground of that upper photo is a below grade, essentially, say, equipment room, pumps, blowers, that kind of thing, to keep the tanks blended and also transfer that material to some vehicles to get it out of there. Next slide. So I just probably can't tell what's happening in this photo, but to the left of this photo, if the photo went a little further, it's our remaining chlorine contact tank. We're about a week away from beginning this inspection for the first time through only a single tank. We have a new temporary chemical system to support that work, but the eastern tank in the foreground here is being converted to our new UV disinfection facility. All the electrical equipment will sit up top, and we'll have 2 channels, one with lamps, one with bypass for off-season when we're not disinfecting, and then, again, depending on tidal flow conditions, that flow may leave the plant by gravity or may flow over to a new effluent pump station to just really raise the hydraulic grade line and make it higher than the receiving waters. I think just quick look ahead for the next year. Again, thinking sludge coming online at the end of this quarter, probably right around 4th of July. Clarifiers 3 and 4 in that secondary sludge pump station, along with the distribution boxes, will probably be closer to end of September, early October. The first and primary tank we looked at, equipment is actually on site, and the contractor's prepping to actually install that soon. So that work will probably wrap up by the end of the year, and then some of these other facilities are kind of more long-term activities that will continue to 2026.
Have you counted groundwater in any of the excavations?
Yes. We, I think high-end estimates is like 350,000 gallons a day. So there's a pretty substantial.
Yeah, treated or?
We send it through some frac tanks, really just to let the solids settle out, and then we recycle it actually back into the plant. That's all through the state. It's been permitted, and actually the contractor's beginning to close up some of those excavations, so our dewatering inputs to the plant are starting to come down, but they'll increase again later.
And, you know, I asked this question before, I mean, there are no commercial laboratories in the Norwich area. I mean, the closest one I think is killing me, might go back. There used to be one in Columbia that's closed. I think the one in Old Saybrook is closed too. What's the feasibility of possibly doing private testing for goals?
So once we get settled in a new laboratory, we will do a detailed report to see
Whether or not that's
what the feasibility, what we could do, yes. A lot of these private laboratories may require more weekend work. That's where we gotta take a look at what the cost would be.
For example, we will focus on a lot of testing in-house, you got proficiency that we can prove by the state, actually do the test in-house as opposed to. Hoping things start. Yes, expand.
That would be good, that would be an asset for the region. So I have private labs, we're close by.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. All right, and that brings us to the gas construction schedule. Hey, Steve Cinco. Steven.
Going in for Barry today.
Going in for Barry.
Okay.
And you would be much more impressed if we had the meetings in the middle of the day, because it's significantly impacting traffic and to our office here. So anything between 7 and 3 is becoming a nightmare.
Wow.
Okay. Next slide, please. Simone. Thank you. I think everyone's aware we have $20.9 million in gas grant work over the next several years. Right now, we're working on what we call the first portion of that, which is $10 million, is the 2022 grant. We actually started the work last year. Last fall, over on Asylum Street, we installed a new main from Grant Corps all the way over to West Main Street. There was a new polyethylene pipe that got tied in today. So it's pressurized today. It actually has gas in it. We've also, over the past several months, installed several services, relocated them outside the houses, and that's something we're going to do as we're going forward as well. Over the next 60 days, we're going to continue moving gas meters outside where necessary. We're going to abandon some services that are no longer being used. And we're going to install a permanent pavement patch over the summer, and we're expected to have Asylum Street completed probably around September 2025. We're using a contractor for most of this work. Our crews do the tie-ins to the actual side streets and the gas mains. We have a contract for that through, it's actually part of the bid or through the grant work. We've also been working over on Franklin Street, McKinley Avenue area. We recently installed 3,600 linear feet of new main from Willow Street up to Rockwell. We're going to be tying that in during May. The contractor has now moved from there over to North Main Street, which I'll get into in a minute. But over the next 60 days over in this area, we'll start the service work. And then we're going to be working in front of NFA, which is the green portion of the project. Coming over around Rockwell Street and then heading over in front of NFA. We're going to do that, we're going to coordinate that with the school when the school breaks for the summer. And this should be completed in the November timeframe of this year. Just this week, we started our work over on North Main Street. They actually started cutting the pavement over the past couple of weeks. Today, they actually started construction, which I think we all realized when we came into work this morning. Had some backups of traffic down by Burnham Square. But this is a big project. It takes us from Burnham Square all the way up to St. Regis Avenue. It's 5,400 feet. Again, work started this week. We're going to be working from Burnham Square towards St. Regis in 2 phases. That way we can start the service work on the first phase when we get about halfway. And so we're going to be able to correct that and then start the service work. And this will not get completed until probably July of next year. It's gonna take a while to do. And that's all the work that's planned for the 2022 grant. The 2023 grant, we've been approved and everything. We haven't been approved to start work yet. The last phase was PHMSA recently issued a finding of no significant impact to historical properties. It's part of the environmental review that has to be done. They've sent the findings over to the state of Connecticut, the Historical Commission, and they get, I think, 30 days to weigh in on that. But we're expecting them to approve that, and then subsequent to that, we'll be able to start all of our planning work on this. This work is probably the actual work part of this grant, it's probably a couple years out. We're gonna finish all the work on the other grant first, but we can start planning and design for this. Any questions?
What are the historical aspects that they're concerned about? Machine the property or?
Yeah, they actually went and take pictures of houses, things like that, to show that the project isn't impacting the houses at all.
Potential historic artifacts that could be uncovered.
Yeah,
All that.
all that stuff. Yep.
It also dictates where the meters go to. You don't want to have the meters in the historic house right out in the front and try to camouflage them or hide them behind bushes on the side, those types of things.
So I'm on the Kent Avenue lot and, there's the portion where they had to dig for the new gas lines and there's tar over that spot. Is there a plan to resurface the entire road or
Yes.
is that, there is?
That'll be resurfaced as part of this project. The project's paying for, what we'll do is we temporary patch it.
Yeah,
It settles down, we'll mill the whole street and overlay the whole thing. So you won't even see the patch.
Yeah, typically when you do these, when we're doing it on our own, if we work closely with Public Works to get it done before they do their paving, and we don't pay for that paving, because this is a federal grant, we are paying for the paving as well. So Public Works is getting a great deal, the city's getting a great deal, as well as utility.
And so for a few months, it'll be a little, it'll be torn up a little bit. In the long run, will be brand new road.
Silent Street isn't bad.
No, it's not at all. They did a good job. Yeah, they have these packers that they're like little robots and they run them remotely and they're vibratory and they put those right down in the trench. So they compact everything very well before the paving. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, Silent Street was a little more traffic challenge than we anticipated when we went through. Tight and windy in some areas.
What, you got Cahoon, Pearl and the other streets that run perpendicularly, which is
A lot of them around it.
Yeah.
And Asylum's a very popular street from that, for sure. Cross Street. Yeah.
So your connections to the houses were all cast iron, or matter, right? So
This could be spare steel.
or steel,
Yeah.
or steel. So
Yeah.
when you have polyethylene, you got to connect all these steel lines to them.
It's gonna be all new services.
Going into the house is brand new as
Yes.
well?
Yep.
That's steel or is that polyethylene?
It's gonna be polyethylene. And also, if the meters are in any of the houses, they're gonna be moved outside as part of this as well.
Okay, so you go polyethylene up into the meter and then steel back out to the house?
It comes out of the ground steel, right, up to the meter.
Well, it's actually plastic inserted in steel.
Yeah. To protect it.
So, it looks like steel, but it's plastic that's carrying the gas.
Okay, and then, but in the house is also plastic and that's steel?
As steel or they also have some, it's a stainless pipe that is flexible. What's that called?
What's that called?
Corrugated pipe. Yeah.
That's popular now.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But in the past, we had wet gas, always put the meters inside, and the easiest thing to do is run it right under the front steps or as close to the middle of the house as possible. And it was bare steel, and it ran into the house, and that is the most dangerous part of the whole service, is that a leaking rusty bare steel service very close to the foundation wall. So now we're taking that, moving to the side of the house, and coming in and then redoing the inside plumbing to connect to where it originally connected in. So it's not a simple, just connect what was there. It's brand new and then doing new piping inside to move the, where the service came into the house.
Okay. I guess that explains the cost. Okay. All right, thank you, Stephen.
Welcome.
Are there any questions for Stephen on the gas update? All right. Now, agenda item now, we have action items. This is where we're gonna vote on the sewer connection fee. Do you want to have a discussion about that at all?
I think we could get it on the table and then,
Okay.
then have a, open it up for,
Okay. All right. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the amendment for the sewer connection fee that we discussed earlier. All right, thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Robert. There are a first and a second. Are there any questions or comments on the sewer connection fee amendment, which was in your board pack? I guess not to belabor this, but I think we talked about it briefly last time, but we don't have a connection fee for electricity.
no, we don't have any other connection.
Right, so it's a different funding mechanism. So when did this connection fee become a thing? When,
2004.
really?
Yeah.
Okay,
And this was a mechanism to assist in paying for the upgrades to the sewer plant back then, when we were looking at building a $60,000 sewer plant. Or $60 million, $60,000.
right. Okay.
But it's very, the majority of communities have sewer connection fees. Many have water connection fees as well, we do not have a water connection fee.
Okay, so it's a mechanism that other people use. We're not the only ones. And I guess most people are okay with it, I guess. But if you're a brand new business coming to town, you got to pay, it can be quite a charge, right?
So if you have a greenfield, it's never been connected, it's a start from scratch.
Yeah.
If you're moving into an existing building, you're paying only the incremental amount above the highest use of that historical property.
So if you take a residential property, a 3-bedroom house, so there is a frontage assessment fee? No, there isn't. No.
No,
So if they want to connect, they can connect and pay the 2,500 plus 0.34% increase.
no, it's just 2,500.
Oh, it's just 25.
Yeah.
So the 0.75 is the number of EDUs per unit of measure per day.
For which property are you talking about?
For a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah, so that would be 3/4 of 2,500 should be in the payment. That's
Well,
different.
they're paying it, so it's 3/4 of it. Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay.
And these numbers have come down because of low flow fixtures and all of the efficiencies in the water side and the sewer side that, are reducing the amount of water, you don't get 10 gallons of flush on the toilet and you got a low flow shower head.
Do we get any, requests for connections?
No, you change the use a lot.
Yeah.
This is also for surrounding communities. It will impact the Ockham Industrial Center, which is a brand new, never had sewer area.
So take, for example, the Tractor Supply place. What will it cost to connect them to sewer or do it in the pond?
So Tractor Supply, being another town, is what their WPCA has done, but I think they, McDonald's, have they not, Larry?
Yeah, they cannot allow, they bought a capacity.
Okay.
And if they go past that capacity, they have to rebuy basically what they need to serve that building connectivity.
But how about if it's in the industrial park? About, on average, what does it cost to connect an industrial building?
So that's where you gotta look at the number of bathrooms, what the waste stream is. An ACLS has a sewer meter, for instance, because it's very unique in their business. But if you have an office space, it's based on number of bathrooms and if you have kitchen space and,
Exactly, the building use of the building, right?
Is it a lot of money or is it,
It all depends.
Just Curiosity, I don't know. Is that hard to say?
It's because it's such a case by case individualized basis, because of the size of the building and what's inside of it, it really has to be looked at by what is happening in that building.
So like cannabis, they're reusing, recycling a lot of their water. So their sewer connection fee is very low compared to somebody that's not recycling.
Yeah.
Correct. So we take into account when we're doing the developers agreement with these, commercial accounts, working with Larry and company to make sure that we get that usage correctly in the calculations.
Thank you for mentioning cannabis. So I heard that maybe it's not gonna go through on the Laura property. Have you heard that, Ron?
On the what property?
Laura on London Turnpike?
Oh, the New London? No, we're still in process. Matter of fact, we're having more conversations on the developers agreement. We just got their loads.
Okay.
So we're moving forward. They're moving forward.
But there was a public outcry about it.
No, I think that was. Yeah, so. I don't think on the one Turnpike yet, but I just heard last week that maybe that wasn't gonna go through.
No, we have not heard that. Matter of fact, we had a conversation yesterday with, I'm gonna say one of their financial individuals.
Okay, and we'll give a little update on the Forest Street, because that is moving along, and we'll talk about the loads in executive session.
All right, just so I understand it, real simple math here, I guess. So in the far right-hand column, let's say for a car wash, it's 2.0, so their connection fee is $5,000 per stall, is that correct?
I don't have.
I have the printout.
Well, okay,
Sorry.
Yeah.
so the number of EDUs per unit of measure is 2. And the unit of measure is per car stall,
Yes.
right? So like Sophie Noble would be a connection fee of $5,000, is that correct?
Per stall.
Got it. Now, there's no meters on, so when it says it's 400 number of gallons per unit per day, that's a guesstimate, is that right? Because there's no meter that you're gonna be checking that.
Well, they get billed monthly on water.
It's on water coming in, okay.
Or some places where it's sewer recycling will have a sewer meter.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
okay. But most of them don't have a meter, like, it's filled on the water use.
But if the building is existing and you're refurbishing it, that's taken into account and deducted from what that original intent of the building is.
Okay, sure. If there was a car wash at Sophie Noble, it would be nothing.
So they put a car wash in at Vacatura's Bakery, they get a deal. Bakery's down here is 3.0, right, per facility.
Yeah,
Right?
they swapped it out.
So
They don't get a credit.
You
They don't
cut
get
them a check, oh, man.
One stall.
Yeah.
All right,
And, this was all started off when we started looking at schools. And when you're looking at 2004, every middle schooler was taking a shower at least once a day. And that doesn't happen anymore. So, where it was a half an EDU per student in 2004 is now a 10th essentially. So, then we had to look at everything, right?
This is how it's done in most municipalities, correct?
okay,
Some, like sometimes they're not reviewing every year. So some may be a little more progressive and some may be a little like we were, right? Right.
okay, are there any additional questions or comments on the sewer connection fee amendment? All right, I have a first and a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Very well. Okay, and then secondly, we have a motion to consider the NPU budget for 2026. So I will entertain a motion for that. And then we can discuss it. First and second, is there any discussion on the NPU budget for 2026?
City council
Well, the city council, we presented it to them. We got all positive feedback. Stuart was here just for maybe the positive feedback because we ended up going early. And it went pretty through.
But we got there almost on time, I didn't know it was late.
But yeah. So, all positive feedback. I think we're doing an outstanding job, and very complimentary. Our budget only gets approved by the city council in the first meeting in June with the entire budget. But so all they have is, bottom line, yay or nay on our budget. And, you know, they're not going to, adjust the bottom line because the bottom line is based on our revenue.
We can't make a report, our own, so it's not a burden to them. So is this a motion to approve the budget, or is this a motion to consider for the city?
So we need to approve it, and then the city approves the final combined budget.
Okay, we have a first and a second. There's no additional discussion. All those in favor, say aye. 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 All those opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right, the motion carries and the budget is approved. Congratulations. That brings us to executive session. Chris, would you like to stay behind?
All right, so there's not going to be much in executive session. I think this is pretty quick. We'll just have a senior team stay with that, and then I'll ask them to leave and go into union negotiations, which is going to be extremely brief as well.
Okay. Well, the sun goes down again.
Maybe.
Maybe. Little help from the time of year, good. All right, I have to state for the record that we're going into executive session. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to, I'll entertain a motion going into executive session. All right, thank you, Bill.
Well, second.
Thank you, Robert. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right, we're in executive session. Don't turn the mic off just yet. I have to say, this is to discuss confidential, trade secret, commercially valuable, confidential, proprietary information and subject to inspection. Public disclosure pursuant to section 12105 and 7232A of the Connecticut statutes. This information is commercially valuable, confidential, and proprietary and subject to disclosure, public disclosure pursuant to Public Act 98-212. And also to discuss personnel matters of an employee or employees and or public official pursuant to chapter 14, section 1206A of the Connecticut General Statutes. Bless you. And with that, we're in executive session.
You should be totally fine. Just let me know what time you're done.
Well,